Raiders that look to make it or break it in 2025. Plus, one word on Geno Smith. That plus more on Tuesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for June 17th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Definitely appreciate you. If you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast, or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page, you know we appreciate both. Show continues to grow each and every day because of your consistent support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. Even when I'm making mistakes, Ari is definitely cleaning it up and doing a lot of great work behind the scenes. So we definitely shout out Ari. We appreciate him. He knows I make a bunch of mistakes. Raider Nation, you know I make mistakes as well. We're going to do that. But like I said, Ari does a great job making sure that we're about as mistake-free as possible. Check him out. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. Not only do we hear from you, calls, texts, a lot of feedback on different conversations that we had, but we're also able to kind of do a question and answer, similar to what I would do on my radio show. Throw a topic out there and then receive your feedback. So we're going to do a little bit of both coming up on today's show. Segment number 3, calls and texts, just whatever random conversation, question, whatever the case may be that you might have. We'll hear from you then. Again, 707-654-4693. But on Monday's show, I was talking about one word to describe Geno Smith and the Raiders, some conversation that got started on Freddie and Harry on ESPN Radio on Friday, and it just really got me thinking over the weekend, and so I turned it into a topic for Monday's show. Well, I got a lot of great feedback on that, and I don't want to just make it exclusive to one topic. So we'll do that in segment number 2. We'll focus on the one word about Geno Smith and the Raiders. That'll be in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, just news and notes of the day, including make or break players for the Raiders in 2025, according to Pro Football Focus. We'll jump into that right after I tell you about the title sponsor of this show, and that's Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Before we hear from Pro Football Focus, I did want to pass on some information about the Raiders alumni health and wellness. Their grouping or their not seminar, but their event that they had over at the M Resort. It was a few Fridays ago. Last year, I was able to actually host it and talk to a lot of different Raider players and personnel. A lot of alumni. Wasn't able to be in attendance this year, but I've had a lot of people ask me, hey, did you find out how that event actually went? And the Raiders did send out kind of a email, just a recap of how their alumni health and wellness event went on. So it was a 4-day event. More than 150 former Raider players and their families received comprehensive no-cost health and wellness services, continuing the Raiders' pioneer commitment as the only professional sports franchise offering such an expansive initiative, which is awesome. That's great right there, that they're the only professional franchise that actually does this kind of event, puts this on health and wellness for their alumni. Attendees took part in cardiac, metabolic, and mental health screenings led by medical professionals from Tulane and the NFL Player Care Foundation. Hearing assessments provided by CQ Partners and the NFLPA's Professional Athletes Foundation. 3D mammograms offered to eligible guests via the Nevada Health Center's MammoVan, skin cancer screenings in partnership with the NFL Crucial Catch Campaign, the American Cancer Society, and the Nevada Cancer Coalition. This is what President Sandra Douglas Morgan had to say about the event. This weekend is a reflection of the Raiders' enduring commitment to our alumni. Their legacy goes beyond the field, and our responsibility is to ensure they have access to the tools and resources needed to thrive in life after football. Then Callie Welch, who's the Raiders Director of Alumni and Marketing Relations, said this year we were proud to support alumni and spouses with 282 comprehensive health screenings like hearing evaluations, cancer screenings, and the MammoVan. Wellness Weekend is one of the most meaningful ways we show once a Raider, always a Raider is more than a motto. It's a promise and a responsibility to be there for our alumni and their families through every phase of life. Now, I know that has nothing to do with the football team on the field, but I do think that it is important to know what the football team is doing for their former players, their alumni, and their families off the field. And I think that's a big deal. And again, leaning into the fact that the Raiders are the only organization that does that is also a big deal. And I'm really hoping more organizations start looking into this and having these kind of events, health and wellness, because as we all know, it is so important. So for the ones that hit me up and asked me just how the event went, I wanted to make sure to pass that along. I also wanted to pass along this sound from Pro Football Focus on the Raiders' make or break year guys. Trevor Sikkema and Dalton Wasserman were talking about these guys. They had a couple guys in mind that they thought, okay, this year with the silver and black, it's a make or break year. So here they are talking about who they would pick out as make or break guys for the silver and black.
For the Raiders, you went with your boy, edge rusher Malcolm Kuntz. If it's a big year for him, I think that certainly with Pete Carroll there now, I mean, I think the defense really gets to take a step up. Tyree Wilson, obviously, I think is somebody who you could put on this list as well. Had a really nice second season in the NFL. First season was rough for him, but played more snaps, had more production, better baseline from him, especially as a run defender. We're still looking for him to take that leap as a pass rusher, but it's well within the realm of possibility that could be here in his third year in his rookie contract. But you ended up going with Malcolm Kuntz. So why is Kuntz the guy here for you with the Raiders?
I think he's the guy, one, because he's on a one-year contract that he signed, because he didn't play a single snap last year, suffered a knee injury in the preseason, and then didn't play a snap last year. But you look at the second half of 2023, he had the ninth best pass rush grade in football at 84.9, and it looked like the Raiders maybe finally had that pass rush duo, somebody to go along with Max Crosby. I know you mentioned, I think Tyree Wilson's a great call too. The theme is they're looking for somebody else to get the triple teams off of Max Crosby and get another effective pass rusher in there. I went with Kuntz because, one, we've seen it before, and two, he's on a 1 year, I believe, $12 million contract to really prove it. Come back healthy, prove you can be that guy. If it's him, if it's Tyree Wilson, whoever can just take some of the pressure off of Crosby and get him some one-on-ones or win some one-on-ones on the other side, it's going to be big. I think even in the interior, Christian Wilkins is the guy, the big money free agent from last year who didn't play a whole lot due to injury. I think he's on that list too. So, you could call it a group effort with the rest of this defensive line, but I wanted to highlight Kuntz. I think he's really good if he's healthy. He's just got to get back from the knee injury and be that number 2 option for him off the edge.
I think Eric Stokes too, right? 1 year deal for Eric Stokes and former first round pick. His coverage grades were fine in the years where he was mostly healthy. Let me make sure that I have these snap counts right. Yeah, I mean, in years in which he has had over 250 coverage snaps, his rookie year, he earned a 67.1 coverage grade. Okay, that's certainly fine for a rookie. That next year after that, took a step back, 60.3. 2023, he had spent a lot of time hurt, so we didn't even log more than 70 coverage snaps there. But then last season, 398 coverage snaps, 62.4 coverage grade. Okay, it's not the best, but now he has an opportunity. He signed a 1 year deal with the Raiders to basically say, like, yeah, I could prove myself as a starting cornerback in the league. And I think that if he doesn't do it here, it's going to be hard for him to prove that anywhere else. Like, he's going to be signing a series of 1 year deals. So I think this is a make or break year for him because he's got the opportunity to, because the Raiders need him to. And I think it's just an all encompassing make or break for that entire situation there. So I want to throw out Stokes as well, who is also in that 1 year contract deal.
So Dalton goes with Malcolm Kuntz. Malcolm Kuntz is on a 1 year deal, missed all 2024 with the torn ACL. So makes all the sense in the world on why he's saying that this is a make or break year for him. He's been a guy that hovered around the league. We all thought he was going to have an opportunity to break out early in his career, but got in the doghouse with Josh McDaniels. And then we saw at the back end of 2023 under Antonio Pierce what he was able to do. I was anticipating 2024 to be his big make it year. He was going to break out, be that guy, that true running buddy across from Max Crosby, and then tore his ACL in the preseason, didn't get to get out there. Now, the only reason I would somewhat disagree with it, make or break, it is a 1 year deal. The Raiders can just move on from him following the season, or he can go somewhere else if he chooses to. Unless the Raiders put a franchise tag on him, he might have such a great season he decides to walk away from the silver and black and latch on with another team. But I do understand why Dalton would say Malcolm Kuntz for, make or break. You see he threw Tyree Wilson, Christian Wilkins, really set a group effort along the defensive line, and I think that there's a lot of merits behind that. Trevor Sikkema picked Eric Stokes for a first 1 year deal. He was a former first-round pick with the Green Bay Packers, but has been riddled with injuries throughout the course of his year. If he doesn't make it this year with the Raiders, he's going to end up being that guy, just a continuous journeyman cornerback that people pick up for depth, but he won't be a guy that is really heavily sought after. Again, that's why the Raiders got him on a cheap deal, the 1 year, just to really prove himself. So I think Trevor was spot on with that one when it comes to Eric Stokes. Make or break guys for me, when I'm thinking about it, I mean, Kuntz, we all have talked about Malcolm Kuntz a lot, but we also talked about Tyree Wilson a lot. Really, Wilson way more than Kuntz because the Raiders have to make a decision, in my opinion, on his long-term standings with the team sooner rather than later. Sooner rather than later, they got to decide, are they going to pick up the fifth-year option on him, right? Is he ever going to live up to being the first-round pick that he was drafted to be when he was drafted number 7 overall by then Raiders GM Dave Ziegler, right? Is he ever going to be that guy? Is he ever going to be a dominant force, or is he going to be a guy that you see glimpses from here and there, but nothing ever consistent? So I would say that Tyree Wilson, as a guy that we've talked about a lot, quite a bit on this show, right, it'd be that guy that'd be make or break for the silver and black. I think Jacorian Bennett is another one. He's a guy going into year 3, right? He's got to show that he can stay healthy and effective, be a big-time playmaker. And right now, I mean, he's running with the twos, right? During OTAs and mandatory minicamp, he was running with the twos. And look, he's still working his way back into shape. It's not training camp. It's not like the depth chart is set in stone right now. It's probably never going to be set in stone under Pete Carroll. But you understand where he's got to go ahead and prove himself once again. Third head coach in 3 years with the Silver and Black. So Jacorian Bennett, more than anything, has to prove that he can stay healthy and stay on the field. I would take it a step further and say Dylan Parham, right? I mean, offensive lineman. And I say offensive lineman because he could play the left guard, he could play the center, and he could play the right guard, and he has for the Raiders. But he hasn't played anything consistently yet. He's in year 4 of his career, and he's only got 4 years on his contract, so it's the last year of his contract, and the Raiders are going to have to make a decision. Is he going to stick around? Is he going to walk in free agency? Is he going to make the team in training camp? Like, he's a question that he's going to have to face some deep competition, some stiff competition in training camp. He's going to have to maybe not make it or break it this year. He might have to make it or break it in training camp. So I think that Dylan Parham is another guy to pay attention to as well as far as a make or break guy. So according to Pro Football Focus, Trevor Sikkema, Dalton Wasserman, Dalton says Malcolm Kuntz, and he also says Tyree Wilson, Christian Wilkins, really the defensive line make or break. Trevor Sikkema, Eric Stokes, the former first-round pick of the Green Bay Packers, now with the Raiders on a 1-year deal. I threw out Tyree Wilson, Jacorian Bennett, Dylan Parham. What says you? Give me your thoughts on the make-or-break guys for the Raiders, in your opinion. We'll have a little fun with it. 707-654-4693. You give me the feedback on the text and the phone line, and we'll do that in segment number 2 for tomorrow's show. We'll do like we're kind of doing today on the one word on Geno Smith. We'll have a little bit of fun, flip things up a little bit since it is a slower time of the year. So again, give me your thoughts on the make or break guys. We'll have it in segment number 2 of tomorrow's show. 707-654-4693. But coming up today in segment number 2, one word on Geno Smith, one word on the Raiders. We talked about it on Monday. We hear from you on Tuesday. That's how we roll here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, and that is Gametime. Nothing like the NBA Finals. Intensity, buzzer beaters, fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere you must experience it live. And this year's matchup, OKC and Indiana, are already delivering. So you want to be at Game 6, right? We know right now OKC's got the 3-2 lead. It's a closeout game. It might be the last game of the NBA Finals. If you want to be there, you can be there. Gametime can help you get there. And they've got great views from your seat. They've got a panoramic view feature that you can actually see your seats. You can see what the view is going to be of the court while you're sitting there before you buy. They also have a Gametime guarantee, so you know you're getting the best deal. If you find a better price in the same row and section, they'll actually credit you 110% of the difference. You want to be there. You want to be in on that action or any other action. It's not just exclusive to the NBA Finals. Gametime could do it for you. Right now, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create the account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. It's all one word for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create the account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That spells LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to rehash the conversation that we were having on Monday's show about one word on Geno Smith and one word on the Raiders. If you're just tuning in and you missed Monday's show, that's okay. No problem. We'll get this conversation from Freddie and Harry on ESPN Radio, Freddie Coleman and Harry Douglas. Really enjoy listening to their show. They come on right after myself and Joe Fortenbaugh, Joe and Q, so I get to hear them. And I was on my way to the Las Vegas ballpark. And matter of fact, it just pulled up to the ballpark on Friday when I heard them talking about the AFC West quarterback. So I sat in the car, even though it was hotter than fish grease out, and I'm in the AC, so I'm fine. But I knew I had to make my way into the ballpark, get ready for my local show, but I had to hear what they had to say about the Raiders and Geno Smith. So if you missed it on Monday, here's what Freddie Coleman and Harry Douglas had to say when it came to one word on Geno Smith.
That word that you would use to describe the new quarterback of the Raiders, Geno Smith.
I'm going to go with building.
When I look at the Las Vegas Raiders last year, they were last in rushing the football. So what did they do? They brought in free agency, Raheem Mostert. They brought some speed. They also drafted Ashton Genty, who was the best running back in college football last year, a guy that can do it in the run game and also the pass game. Both running backs that they brought in knew this season. But also you have a Jacoby Myers. You drafted a Jack Beck. You have Brock Bowers, who was awesome last year. So they're building, and so is Geno Smith with this offense of the Las Vegas Raiders.
The word I'll use is thankful. In terms of the Raiders are saying, we're thankful we got a quarterback. We've been trying. We have one in Derek Carr. Ran him out of here. We thought we'd had others. That didn't work out. Now you got a bona fide. You got a quarterback that has had success in a running game style that they're going to play the Las Vegas Raiders with Pete Carroll as their head coach. They have a great comfort level together. So for the first time in more than a minute, Raiders fans can look at their quarterback and say, we're thankful, because they had not had any reason to be thankful before Geno Smith and Pete Carroll had a reuniting situation that they're going to have in Las Vegas.
Harry Douglas, former NFL wide receiver, said building. That was the word he used for Geno Smith. Freddie Coleman used thankful. I could understand both. Don't necessarily agree with both, but okay, I get where they're coming from. And Freddie really makes some good points about being thankful ever since, the Raiders haven't had Derek Carr. They've had a carousel of quarterbacks, and so at least now they're thankful that they have a quarterback that they can count on. My word that I used was ready. Geno Smith is ready to show that he can lead his team. The Raiders are ready to just win, baby, and have a commitment to excellence. It's not just a slogan on the T-shirt. And Raider Nation is ready to be able to be really proud of their team. Go out there and just with your chest pumped out and excited and tell everyone about your team and its return to being a really good, dominant team, as opposed to seeing them be good for 1 year and then, they fall off for a few years. Then they come back 1 year, then they fall off, like inconsistencies. Now they're ready to be a consistent, dominant team that you remember, that we all remember when we fell in love with the silver and black. But it's not about what I think. What do you think? What is the one word that you would use to describe Geno Smith and even the Raiders? 707-654-4693. A text from John in Idaho. He said, Q, it's John from Idaho. You asked for a single word to describe Geno Smith, the Raiders, and Raider Nation. The word to me that would describe Geno is perseverance. His whole career, he's had to find a way to get on the field and to prove himself. The countless hours of film study and preparation and to have the perseverance to constantly compete has made him the leader he is now. The word I would use to describe the Raiders is fight. Most of the players are fighting for a spot on the roster, fighting to show the world that they are what they are made of and what they can accomplish. They are using their internal fight to compete. Everyone in this organization, from Mark Davis all the way down through the practice squad, is fighting to get this team back to glory, to be champions once again. The word I would use to describe Raider Nation is anxious. We're anxious to see this team on the field, anxious to get back to winning ways. I've been a fan since '82. I've watched some of the greats like Howie Long, Marcus Allen, Steve Wisniewski, etc. I'm anxious to see the Raiders find that commitment to excellence once again. Just win, baby. Fantastic text from John in Idaho. No explanation, no follow-up from me needed on that text right there. How about a call from Wine Country Raider? He's calling to give his one word on Geno Smith, the Raiders, and Raider Nation. We talked about this on Monday's show. Here's Wine Country Raider.
What's up, Q? It's Wine Country Raider. I'm just calling in to give my one word for Geno, the Raiders, and the fan base. My one word for Geno is primed. I think he's primed to take over as the leader of this team. I think he's ready to do it. I think this is the best quarterback we've had since Chris Gannon. I think the one word for the team this year is determined. I think these guys they're all in. I think they're ready to show the league who they are and what they're all about. And my one word for the fan base is fiending. I think they're fiending for dominance. I think they're fiending for wins. I think they're fiending for good football, because it's been a long time since we can say that that's been the case. I became a fan back right before the last Super Bowl they were in, and seeing Rich Gannon go down and break get hurt, so Tony Saragusa sacked him and laid on top of him, and then him coming back. Rod Woodson with the pick six and Mile High. Just those times. Raiders making it to the Super Bowl and Oakland rioting. It was crazy, and I think we're ready to get back to dominant football, and they're fiending for it. So that's my one words, and thanks for everything you do, Q. First listen of the day, and shout out Raider Nation. Just win, baby.
All right, there you go. So Geno Smith, according to Wine Country Raider, primed to take over as leader of the team, determined for the Raiders as a team in general, and Raider Nation fiending for dominance, wins, and good football. I love those descriptions. I love that one word, and it really, those are all words that I guess they can be, like ready could be the tree in this conversation, and those words that you described, primed, determined, fiending, those could all be branches from that ready tree. So thanks so much, Wine Country Raider. Great to hear from you. Got a text from Ohio Raider in the 419. Updated. What's up, Q? As always, I enjoy the show. My one word for our team is hopeful. Here are some examples why I chose hopeful. Hopeful our offensive line can hold up. Hopeful Christian Wilkins is healthy. Hopeful our secondary comes together. Hopeful Geno Smith plays up to his standards. I could go on, but hopefully you understand why I said hopeful. One last thing, Raider fans, check out the Pivot podcast and interview with Coach Dylan McCullough. Great story, Q. Thanks for all that you're doing. In your words, covering the Raiders like a glove. Ohio Raiders from the 419. There you go. Really good text. Appreciate you. Hopeful for many different reasons. I like how you could apply that to many different areas of the team, the fan base, right? The quarterback, everything. I like it. Really good breakdown. It's good to hear from you. And yes, really good Pivot podcast, Ryan Clark and Company with Coach Dylan McCullough. And yes, he has a fantastic story. I would also encourage you to read Vinny Bonsignore's story that he put out in the Las Vegas Review-Journal on Sunday. That was Father's Day, about Dylan McCullough. Fantastic stuff as well. So just in case you get a few minutes to do a little extra reading. But thanks for the text. Do appreciate you. Raider Charles in Moreno Valley. He's calling to give his one word for the Raiders and Geno Smith. Here's Raider Charles.
Good morning. My name is Raider Charles from Moreno Valley, California. Just calling to say my one word for the Raiders that I see personally, and I've been seeing it since last season, is vision. I feel like they had a vision on what they wanted to do offensively and defensively. It's just they didn't have Telesco and AP. Obviously, they have the time.
Vision. They have the vision, even going back to last season. And you know what? There's no doubt. AP had a vision. There's no doubt. Now, he didn't execute it. He didn't get the team to execute it. The health wasn't there to be able to execute it. The right people weren't in place, the coaches, right? Like you could look at Luke Getsy as offensive coordinator. You could look at a lot of guys and say, yeah, that wasn't the right guy in place for that. So the vision might have been right. It was the execution of the vision that went wrong. Where Pete Carroll, he's got the track record of being able to have the vision and also go out there and execute it, which I believe is why everyone feels so much better about the direction that the team is going. Because, again, I don't think AP's vision was wrong. It was the way he went about trying to execute and pull off that vision. So thanks so much for that call. Great stuff. Up next, we got a text from Eli, the paint guy in Seattle. He said, Q, one-word explanation to Geno that came to mind right away for me is keystone. The builders placed that block to hold the other pieces together. He even brings the coaches closer to the players. He's 1,000% vital to what we plan to accomplish this coming season. Without him, we may crumble. Not to diss on the backups, but I hope he stays healthy and safe because he fits the mold for what we need to do and what we need to be. Thanks for giving us your all in this crazy world. It's nice to have this podcast. Peace to the nation. Just win, baby. Eli, the paint guy in Seattle. Keystone. Good one. Creative. That was a deep thought right there. I like it. Good stuff, man. I really do appreciate that. And I think that is it. Is that all I got? That's all I got. Good stuff. Good stuff. John in Idaho, Wine Country Raider, Ohio Raider, Raider Charles in Moreno Valley, and Eli, the paint guy in Seattle. Really good feedback. Just another creative way to use the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line and, make it seem more like my radio show that I do on the daily. So hopefully you enjoy that. Hopefully you have a little bit of fun with that. Now we'll get to your calls and texts coming up in segment number 3. Just any kind of random conversation, like any kind of comment you may have, any kind of question you may have. We hear from you on all kind of different subjects. We'll do that in segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Don't forget, hit me up and let me know what your make or break guys are. We talked about that in segment number 1. I want to put those on tomorrow's show. We got some best of shows coming up pretty soon, but I want to finish this off strong before we get into that. But let's get back to the conversation here. Logan in PA, he's up first. He's calling to talk about my win projections for 2025. I say 8 to 9 wins as opposed to what I said in 2024. According to Logan, 9 to 10 wins, and he wants to know why. Here he is, Logan in PA.
Hey, Q, this is Logan from PA. I'm calling to ask why you're leaving a lower prediction for a win-loss record than you did last year. in last year's win-loss prediction, you predicted the Raiders would win 9 to 10 wins per game. And this year you're predicting 8 to 9 wins. And I would just like to know a little bit of reasoning why you're predicting that this team is worse than last year's when we've upgraded a lot of last year's, like the main positions. So like last year you predicted on May 16th that we would win 9 to 10 games with Antonio Pierce, Luke Getsy, Gardner Minshew, Zamir White, and we were going to be playing a second place schedule because the year before we were 8-9. And then this year we're going to be playing a fourth place schedule, right? Because we won 4 games, mainly because our defense was decimated. And we have Pete Carroll instead of Antonio Pierce. Pete Carroll is a first ballot Hall of Fame coach. We have Chip Kelly instead of Luke Getsy. Obvious upgrade. We have Geno Smith, who statistically has been a top 10 to 15 quarterback the last 3 years instead of Gardner Minshew. We have Ashton Genty, obviously better than Zamir White. So why are you predicting one less win? You're predicting 8 to 9 wins instead of 9 to 10. I think that maybe people are just a little gun shy because they were drinking the Kool-Aid with Antonio Pierce. I think personally, like Pete Carroll has said, this is a playoff team. Like he wants to go to the playoffs right away. He's not building for the future. So I think the Raiders should anticipate a quick turnaround, and this should be a 10-win team. If we wouldn't have had the injuries we had last year, the year before we were 8-9 with virtually the same roster. And we still have a lot of those key pieces in place. We don't really lose anybody that we can't replace. Let's go with that. So if we were 8-9 in a year where Antonio Pierce was an interim coach and we had like Bo Hardigree as an offensive coordinator, why can't we go 10-7 with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith? So I'm predicting 10 wins, and I just want to know why everybody is predicting less wins than they did last year when we've obviously improved the most important parts of the roster: head coach, quarterback, running back, offensive coordinator. Thank you, Q.
Logan, thanks for the call. Good question. Fair question, I think. One, I don't think that's a huge difference, right? 8 to 9 wins as opposed to 9 to 10. It's not really like some big night and day number, but I get it, right? For every reason that you broke down, you're thinking, hold on, they should be much better than what you thought last year. Well, that's part of it, right? The Raiders were coming off of an 8-win season in 2023. So I expected them to get better. And Antonio Pierce took over mid-season in 2023 and finished out the season strong. So my going into it was, okay, he's going to have all offseason. He's going to have his staff. He's going to be able to put his plan in place. He's going to have his training camp, do things his way. They should only get better, right? Because that's the natural projection and progression. They should only get better. They had 8 wins in a season where it looked like they were gone, right? They were done. When Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler got fired on Halloween, it was Rap City, and somehow Antonio Pierce was able to kind of get things turned around. So that was on me. I thought that they were naturally going to improve. This time around, the Raiders are coming off a 4-win season, right? So I'm doubling their win total from a year ago, right? And not to think, it's a very young team with a lot of new people in place, players and coaches. Yes, they still play in the AFC West. They are playing that 4th place schedule that you mentioned, but they play in the AFC West. Every team got better, right? I mean, even though I think the Chiefs are going to regress a little bit, you still had 3 teams that were in the playoffs in the AFC West, and the Raiders didn't win a game in the AFC West last year. Now, I don't think that that's going to be the same this year, but again, you're coming off a 4-win season. Another thing that I've learned, and I like to try to learn as much as possible from whatever I see, what I hear, what I witness. I think we all like to grow. So as we grow over the years, you understand it's really hard to win in the NFL. It's not easy. So when I say I think that the Raiders go win 8 or 9 games, I feel like that's a really good place to be. And then in year 2, expect the playoffs. Like, I don't think that that's an unfair, thought on it, but I get where you're coming from. But again, I just think that the expectations, I'm not going to set you up and believe that the expectations are too high. I want to learn to try to take things with a grain of salt and not get too high or too low on what I see or what I hear at the time and kind of assess it that way. So I know it's a long-winded way to answer that question, but there's a lot of different variables. And remember, this is a very young team that Pete Carroll's taken over. 3 head coaches in 3 years is never easy for any organization, but he's going to do his very best. So hopefully that explains it. And hopefully you understand it, Logan. Thanks so much for the call. Up next, got a text from Peter in Winnipeg. Hey, Q, it's Peter from Winnipeg. Hope you had a great weekend. I saw an article on Friday afternoon from Mike Luciano talking about how it was Dante Thornton Jr. and not Jack Bech getting reps with the first-team offense. I was wondering if there's any truth to this and if you think that Thornton might actually have a shot at starting this season. I know it's June and these camps don't mean a whole lot, but I thought it was interesting. Training camp needs to hurry up. Talk soon. Go Raiders. It's Peter in Winnipeg. And I didn't see that article, but I could say Dante Thornton Jr. got a lot of burn during mandatory minicamp. I could say that. They made a very big effort to make sure he got involved early and often. He was out there running with the ones. Jack Bech was out there running with the ones from time to time as well. I don't think he's going to have the big monster season that a lot of people anticipate. I think Dante Thornton Jr. is going to play a pretty big role. He's showing that he can at least run routes and get behind the wide receiver. I think he's going to be the cornerback, I should say. Sorry. I think he's going to have a big playability for the Raiders in 2025. And, the good thing is Geno Smith is able to hit the deep ball. He's very accurate when it comes to the deep ball. If you check out Pro Football Focus, Geno Smith was actually number 1 when it came to accuracy on deep ball attempts. So I think that that's going to bode really well for Dante Thornton Jr. And I believe Chip Kelly, as we talked about on Monday's show, Chip Kelly is going to set up Geno Smith, this offense around him, to really show off what he does really well. So, Jack Bech is going to have a role. He's definitely going to play with the team this year. But Dante Thornton Jr., I'm not saying that he's just making Jack Bech one of those guys that you don't think of, but Thornton's going to be a player. He looks like he's really going to have something to say about this team this year. Thanks so much for the text. Up next, got a call from Savannah Raider. He's calling to talk about penalties under AP and what they'll be like under head coach Pete Carroll. Here's Savannah Raider.
Hey, Q, Savannah Raider here. Quick question. So I'm listening to the podcast, and I was just thinking, man, under Antonio Pierce, the Raiders were one of the least penalized teams in the most recent iterations of the team, right? And we hear Pete Carroll talking about compete. Is there a way maybe we could go back in time to when Pete Carroll coached the Seahawks? Now I know it's all relative, but is there a way maybe we can see how much of Pete Carroll's teams got penalized throughout the history? Is this going to be an iteration of the team where they're disciplined as well as competing, or are they just going to be getting after it and then sometimes tripping over ourselves? So I just want to slow the roll down a little bit, the hype of the Pete Carroll train, and I want to ask, how is Pete Carroll with coaching discipline on the line? So thank you. I appreciate your time. Raiders.
Now, it's a really good call, Savannah Raider. Thanks so much for it. I appreciate you. So let's just put it in perspective. Let's go ahead and break it down. I just went back a little bit. Raiders had 96 penalties for 807 yards last season, right? 96 penalties, 807 total yards last season. They only had 75 for 629 yards under AP for the entire season in 2023. But we remember he didn't coach the entire season under 2023. But they were really good when it came to not getting penalized that year. Even early on, before McDaniels got fired, they were doing really well when it came to the penalties. And then AP even cleaned it up a little bit more after that. So, after what he was able to do in 2023, you thought, man, they're really on the fast track. But then again, it got to 96 penalties for 807 yards last year. As far as Seattle goes, let's just look at, 2023, right? Because Pete Carroll didn't coach in 2024. 2023, the Seahawks had 111 penalties for 954 yards. 2022, 106 for 850 yards. 2021, 97 for 803 yards. And then 2020, 84 for 662 yards. 2019, 109 for 882 yards. 2018, 111 for 959 yards. So I think we're pretty comfortable saying they're probably going to be around 95 to 100 penalties, right? Probably be around 95 to 100 penalties, anywhere from about 850 to 950 yards. I don't think it's an extreme. You might see a little bit more penalties every once in a while from head coach Pete Carroll. I think this defense will probably be a little bit more aggressive. So you'll probably see a couple penalties here and there, right? That may be a little bit late calls, the late hits or the over-aggressive calls. You might see a couple on JPJ, who plays through the whistle, as we very well know. But I don't think it's going to be massive. Like if the Raiders stuck with the 75 for 629 yards, the penalties that they had in 2023, that would have been one thing. But since they haven't done that, I don't think that you're going to see some big, massive change from Pete Carroll, this year, what you saw to Antonio Pierce, even in 2024. Remember, they had 96 then. So I think that that's pretty reasonable, to think that you're going to get probably 85 to 95 penalties for the Raiders this year. And, We'll see. We'll see. The thing about it is you just hope that they're not the drive extenders. They're not the ones that, all of a sudden, the defense is getting off the field and now they're back on the field, or a turnover is wiped away because of penalty. Like, you don't want them to be the dumb ones, right? The dumb mistakes that they don't have to make, right? You don't want those to be. Penalties are going to happen. Holding, right? There's going to be penalties. You know how that goes. But you want to try to eliminate the stupid mistakes. That's the biggest key of it all. So thanks so much for that call. Really good question, though. Definitely appreciate that. We'll close out with a text from Ryan from Rochester, New York. He says, "Hey, Q, it's Ryan from Rochester, New York. Things are looking really good for the team right now. Spytek's been killing it. However, there's one move I've been really questioning. Right now, the team's biggest concern is the Christian Wilkins situation. I'm really concerned about him coming back and being able to play at a high level. With that being said, my question is, why did the team restructure his contract in March to free up $15 million that they didn't need? We would have been able to get out of that contract after 25 with no dead money. Now we can't cut him for 2 years without a huge hit. I just can't find a reason they did that, knowing he's coming back from a very difficult injury. Thanks, Q. Love the show. It's Ryan in Rochester, New York. Great question. I can't give you an exact answer for why they did that. There was a couple of contract situations. You could look at Max Crosby's contract and the way that they structured that as well and wonder why they took the bigger cap hit this year when they didn't have to do that. I'm not 100% sure why they did what they did with Christian Wilkins, but I do know that the injury has been challenging and difficult for him to come back from. That is a big question. That made the Adam Butler signing that much better, because he's probably going to be leaned on even more. And obviously you saw what they were able to do in the draft, going and getting a couple defensive tackles as well, pretty early in the draft, right? It wasn't like they got him in the 7th round or anything. So they got him, in the 4th round? So they got the offensive lineman in the 3rd round and the defensive tackles in the 4th round. I'm good with that. Right. So that's something that you have to look at. But Christian Wilkins coming back and being healthy and being able to contribute, like we heard in segment number 1, really make or break. This is big for him. That was a big ticket item that the Raiders, signed. Obviously, it was Tom Telesco, not John Spytek. But he's a guy that you just don't want to go and say, man, the one time they go out and spend a lot of money on a free agent, it ends up not working out. They get 5 games out of him, and that's it. So hopefully he's able to come back. I know they're slow playing it. They're trying to make sure that he's as good to go as possible. But, it's a little – It's rough sledding at this stage of the games. Thanks so much for that text. I do appreciate you. Let's see. I got a couple more calls, but let me just get this one. Raider Too Much. It's a quick one. He's fired up. He's really fired up, and it's really good to hear. It's a great way to end the show as far as I'm concerned. Here's Raider Too Much.
Q, Ari, Nation, what up? It's Raider Too Much. Hey, I was just watching the show, man, and a great little Weezy reference on the Carter 6. Yeah, we're a little upset about that right now. You on it, man. Anyways, just checking in. Raider Nation, what's up? Love you guys, man. Best we've been looking at in a long time. Super excited. Can't wait, man. And the call I was just listening to, I forgot your name, homie. But yeah, home runs, baby. Home runs. Over the fence. Let's go. All right. Raider Nation, we out.
Too much. There's not too much I have to say to follow that up. I like it, man. I just like the energy that you have on that call, the excitement that you have on that call as well. So that's going to do it for today's show. Again, Raider Nation, let me know your make or break guys, right? Maybe Christian Wilkins is that guy for you. Maybe there's someone else. Let us know. 707-654-4693. Unless something else pops up, we'll definitely feature that in segment number 2 tomorrow, and we'll get your other calls and texts as well. Got a call here that I'm contemplating if I'm going to play it or not, for multiple reasons, and get to that at another time. But I got plenty of stuff to get to as, the next couple days. Tomorrow will be the last show that I do that's, not a best of show. And then on Wednesday, go on vacation. So you get a bunch of best of shows up until I return from vacation. So, so let's just, I don't know, I'm trying to go out on a high positive note. So let's just try to do that if possible. 707-654-4693. Again, we'll close out the shows, at least the non-best of shows, really strong tomorrow. Hearing from you, having plenty of news and notes to talk about as well. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.